Is Vancouver truly hopeless? It's no secret. Vancouver is currently one of the most expensive cities to live in. And for many Canadians, myself included, living paycheck to paycheck seems to be the norm. Rental prices are astronomical, and so are the living costs. Many of us live in shared homes or live with our parents, and the dream to move out and to be independent seems as unlikely as winning the lottery. What happened? How did things turn out so bad? And worst of all, we were promised that things were going to get better. It's been years since Justin Trudeau took and left the office, and the general sentiment is that things have gotten worse. Honestly, it feels pretty hopeless. But is it truly hopeless? With Mark Carney and his extensive resume being sworn in, it feels like there is a chance that the country can finally turn around for the better. But what's happening, really? What is currently being done by Mark Carney and the local Vancouver government to combat these astronomical housing and cost of living prices? And better yet, is there anything the average Canadian, me and you, can do to help combat these issues? Because while it is easy to feel powerless and hopeless, we are still fortunate enough to live in a democracy. And with that, we have the power to vote. This is a privilege I do not want to waste, because I am tired of feeling hopeless. So in this video, I want to go over our current situation and ask, what should the average Canadian look at for when it comes time to vote? What is the current status and policies in the Lower Mainland, Burnaby, New Westminster, Surrey, etc.? I want to know, is Vancouver truly hopeless? To understand if we're hopeless, we first have to look at the cold, hard numbers of February 2026. For the first time in a decade, the infinite growth of Vancouver real estate has hit a wall. As of early February, the benchmark price for a home in Metro Vancouver sits at $1,101,900, which is actually a 5.7 decrease compared to the last year. While $1 million is still an absurd amount of money, we are officially in a buyer's market with about 11 months of supply on the table. The most significant shift is in the condo market, the typical entry-level home, where average prices have dropped 10.1% year over year to roughly $724,561. Rent has also seen a slight reset. The average unfurnished one-bedroom in the region is now $2,111, down nearly $200 from the peak insanity of late 2024. The fever has broken, but honestly, the patient is still in the ICU. The most significant change in the national atmosphere comes from the Carney reset. Prime Minister Mark Carney's 2025-2026 strategy marks a fundamental shift, moving away from the old liberal policy of helping people buy more expensive homes and toward a policy of building massive amounts of non-market housing. Carney has dedicated $13 billion over 5 years to a new federal agency called Build Canada Homes. This program has the power to acquire land and partner directly with builders. The mandate is clear. Treat housing as a productivity tool and a human right rather than a speculative asset class. Build Canada Homes is already moving to build 4,000 homes on 6 federal sites, with a broader plan for 45,000 non-market homes on federal lands across Canada, including key locations in British Columbia. For those of us still hoping to own, Carney's government introduced a massive GST HST for first-time home buyers. This legislation essentially eliminates the federal portion of the tax on new homes valued up to $1 million, offering a potential saving of up to $50,000. The rebate scales down for homes between $1 million and $1.5 million, ensuring that the middle class isn't entirely priced out of the new build market. By focusing on supply and eliminating taxes for the first-time buyer, the federal government is attempting to stabilize prices without triggering a financial crash that would wipe out the retirement savings of older Canadians. While the federal government handles the macroeconomics, the BC provincial government has launched what can only be described as a legislative war on NIMBYism, which stands for Not in My Backyard. Since 2024, the province has passed bills 44, 47, and 25, which have effectively ended exclusive single-family zoning in most urban areas. If you own a lot in a municipality like Vancouver or Burnaby, the law now mandates that you can build up to 6 units on a single-family lot near frequent transit. Even more radical is the transit-oriented development mandate. Within 200 meters of a SkyTrain station, the minimum minimum allowable height for new buildings is now 12 stories. Local councils no longer have the power to block these projects based on neighborhood character. Perhaps the most impactful tool for current renters is the $500 million Rental Protection Fund. As of February 2026, the fund has already exceeded its initial goal, protecting over 2,200 affordable units from being sold to private developers or speculators. In East Vancouver's Grandview Woodlands, for example, the fund recently helped a nonprofit purchase 2 apartment buildings, securing rents that are 50% below market average for the long term. This prevents the renoviction cycle that has hollowed out the city's middle class for years. The province is essentially trying to catch up on 30 years of underbuilding in less than a decade. The Lower Mainland is no longer just a bedroom community for Vancouver. It is the front line of the housing crisis. Each city is handling the provincial mandates differently. Burnaby has become the leader in exclusionary zoning, forcing developers to replace every demolished rental unit with a new one at the same rent level. In the Brentwood area, the Gilmore Place development is nearing completion, adding thousands of units to the supply. Meanwhile, Surrey, which is on track to surpass Vancouver in population, is leaning heavily into transit-oriented development along the new Surrey-Langley SkyTrain extension. The city is essentially building a new downtown from scratch, focusing on high-density hubs. New Westminster has taken a different approach, focusing on the missing middle. They have been proactive in approving townhomes and 6-story wood-frame apartments, which are significantly cheaper to build than concrete high-rises. The challenge across all 3 cities remains the infrastructure gap. Building 12-story towers is one thing. Ensuring there are enough schools, parks, and sewers to support them is another. Metro Vancouver's updated 10-year housing plan, slated for early 2026, aims to add 2,000 new units by 2030, specifically for low to moderate income families, with a long-term potential for 14,000 homes on high-potential transit sites. If all this policy is happening, why do we still feel like we're losing? And the answer to that is lag time. Probably. We are fighting a 30-year backlog of demand. High interest rates, while stabilizing around 3.3% to 4% in early 2026, still make it incredibly expensive for developers to break ground on new projects. We also face a crippling labor shortage in the construction sector. Canada wants to build nearly 500,000 units in a year, but we don't have enough tradespeople to do it. Mark Carney's budget has increased funding for union trading, but you can't train a master electrician in 6 months. So we're in the messy middle of a transition, where the old rules are gone, but the new buildings are not yet complete. So, is it hopeless? Thankfully, no, but we're still in a fight. We are moving from an era of passive monitoring to an era of active intervention. Here's what you and I, as average middle-income Canadians in Vancouver, can do to combat this crisis. 1. Stop voting for vibes. When it comes to local elections in Burnaby or Surrey, don't just look at the party. Look at the candidate and their stance on upzoning. If they aren't willing to support a 6-story building in single-family neighborhoods, they are contributing to your high rent. Democracy is your strongest tool. Use it to punish the NIMBY politicians who block supply. 2. Maximize the FHSA and repayment holidays. Use the First Home Savings Account, FHSA, to its limit, $8,000 per year. It's the most powerful tax-saving tool Canada has ever released. At least that's what it seems like from what I'm reading. Additionally, if you use the Home Buyers Plan to take money from your RRSP, the federal government has extended the repayment grace period to 5 years for those who withdrew between 2022 and 2025. This gives you extra breathing room during your first few years of home ownership. 3. Invest in non-market options. Apply for housing co-ops now. The federal and provincial governments are pouring billions into cooperative housing. Co-ops aren't just for the destitute, okay? They are for professionals who want stable, non-profit housing. The waitlists are long, but with the new cooperative housing development program, thousands of new units are coming online. 4. Embrace the missing middle. Okay, let's lower our expectations for a detached house with a backyard and start advocating for high-quality 3-bedroom condos and townhomes. This is the only way a modern city survives. When we demand family-sized density, developers are forced to build it. 5. Hold the Carney government accountable. The Build Canada Homes Agency is a powerful idea, but it needs transparency. As voters, let's demand to see key performance indicators. We need to know exactly how many units are being built and for whom. Don't let the $13 billion become just another bureaucratic slush fund. So Vancouver isn't hopeless. I know it feels that way, but it's not, okay? At least I don't think so. It's just finally growing up after many, many years of stagnation. For decades, we tried to keep a world-class city trapped in a 1950s zoning model. That model has failed. Today, we are seeing the birth of a new, denser, and more equitable urban landscape. It won't be fixed by tomorrow morning, obviously, but for the first time in a generation, the people in power are actually pulling the right levers. So let's stay informed, stay active, and don't give up on the dream of independence. The policy is starting to catch up.